Hey everyone, I hope you had a good trading day. It was a lot of volatility, which I absolutely love, but I know that it is nerve-wracking on many. So tonight what we're going to do is go through the vaccine stocks and what transpired today. And I also want to go through a lot of the other stocks, some smaller cap ones that were affected by this, some of the mask distributors. And I also want to cover the at-home stocks and just go through those, because what happened today with the news is somewhat interesting. There's a couple varying ways to look at this. So people that have gotten the vaccine are now getting the virus. The issue with this is I don't want to turn this into a scientific lesson. All I want to do is just state that that's what's transpired. And because that's transpired, you have uncertainty in a lot of areas that we're going to get into. And then we're going to talk about how we can possibly benefit from that. So as always, subscribe to this channel, click the notifications, and I'm going to put everything in alphabetical order. In here, there's also some stocks that I think are pertinent to tomorrow and the next day. And then at the very end, I'm going to go through the indexes because I think that's also important, what happened today with the rise. So we're just going to dig right into it. This is Airbnb. And let's get rid of the relative volume. Also, if you can comment on the screen tonight and tell me if it's clearer. I just put this all on a new monitor. So I'm very curious how much clearer this is, if at all, any. So just comment, let me know, please. Thank you. So anyway, look right here. Okay, this is where you came down to 129 3/4. This is where you're rallying. If people are going to be concerned about what's going on with vax stocks and the vaccines not working and the new variant, if this becomes an issue, which I'm not saying it is going to become an issue or it isn't, I'm just saying if it does become one, we can get rid of that. What's going to happen is people are not going to be staying at hotels as much anymore. They're going to go back to Airbnbs, which actually did start to see somewhat of a decline, and people start going back to hotels because Airbnb rates were so high. And it's one of the reasons, one of many reasons why the stock came in. But so here you have kind of that, big mountain, right? Almost a reverse cup, some could say. Here's another one. But here's what's interesting about this, and this is what I want to talk about. We're going to get rid of all these lines right now, and we're going to put them back when we need them. But you see this rally, break, then rally, and people that are familiar with watching these videos know what this is. Okay? When you break here, this is an H. See how when we broke this level, okay. See when we broke this level, how it acted? That day, it just came straight down. And then we formed a little what's called a Morningstar pattern. Again, for those that aren't familiar, I'll link the candlestick video to the end of this video. And I'd watch it if you're not familiar with candlesticks and actually want to learn patterns that actually work. So what you'll see is you need to get over that level. So let's just call that level 139.70. Let's just call it 140, okay? Getting over 140 would be your first ability to show that maybe the bottom is in. Now, if you overlay your indicators with this, and we're just going to use the, we don't really need much more than this, frankly, but here's your 8, here's your 50, and here's your 21. Well, look what's happening. That would get you over the 8, which is really what you need to push. Your first real resistance, if you get over that, is the top of this peak, which is 150. So you could see 10 points here. You do have the ability to see 10 points. And if you broke the low of this, you're probably going to want to be out of that. So there's some meat on the bone here for a trade if you keep moving your stop up, but there's not a lot. It's going to take a lot to get through all this. And we can understand this by just going through and looking at volume by price and see that, right, there's your point of control line. And that point of control line by volume of price is that determines who's in control. And right now, it is not the bulls. But this can trade up to that level. I do believe that if this starts to get involved. So here's one of the smaller supply houses that is acting on the news and the speculation. And, they sell, it's very allied healthcare products. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a very small cap stock. But I want to cover it And I want to cover it because you've seen these pops, right? And then you've seen another pop. Okay. What's interesting about this and what I want to go over with this is the kind of stock that even though you're down today, you could see this continue, right? Like this is how, when we're going to get in, I'm going to show Lake in a minute, but this is how Lake and there was another one, APT, started. You know, they started doing these kinds of moves. But if you look at what's going on here, okay, you're not closing below 551. So if I was in this and I wanted to trade it, 551 would be my stop. That would be the level that I would look at to determine what, you know, where I'm going to get out. That would be where I would get out if I closed below that level or stayed below it for any period of time. I don't know what the magnitude of time was that this stayed here, but or what period it was. But anyway, as you can see, today wasn't a great day. You're probably going to consolidate in here before pushing higher. But just again, this is one that should be on your radar if you're looking for smaller cap names. And frankly, I wouldn't go near this until you're above, you know, the VWAP and the point of control and the VWAP. And what I would focus on is this level right up here. Get a close over that, right? I mean, that's when you've had your moves. Get over that. That's when you've had your move, 767. So I just want to cover this because this has just been an absolute monster today. It's kind of funny, but you know, it's interesting. I covered it this morning and I'm going to get rid of, let's get rid of the purple lines and let's keep the fibs. So this is AMC and I want to cover this because, you know, I said this morning, the fact that, and you know, these stocks tell a story. The fact that you undercut here, right? You undercut there, and then you rallied and closed back over the fib, it pretty much told you what you needed to see. And I had people asking me today all day, should they be shorted? Well, no, not now. I mean, it clearly picked a direction. So that direction is up. That's the beginning of a move, right? So as I stated, you know, when I was talking to people about shorting this one, I actually put it as a possible short in the top 12 list. You know, if it could turn fast, it's turned fast. It can get to this 48.80 really darn quick, right? And you don't want to be in the way of this. Where are we after hours? You're up a little bit after hours. So this can move. This may just be beginning again. It is very bullish that I got over the 50-day and 8-day today and I broke this wedge. I have not broken this wedge in close to a month. So that could get me up to this, you know, 61 levels, and you know, that gets me to 48, 61, you know, 0.618. So, and then you just go up to the next fib. You know, I love fibs. I love when you know how to draw them right and how they lie perfectly. It's just crazy how it works. But anyway, so then you'd be heading for this 59 if you get through this. Because if you get through 48.80, 59's just a jump away. I mean, your point of control's down here, your VWAP's down here, right? I could on something like this is one of the rare times where I'd actually use an anchored VWAP, right? Just to get another data point, and you could see where you might have an issue. But I don't even think that that's going to be a problem if we get through that. Let's remove that VWAP. So I would say that this is on its way back up. And you know, when you see something like this and you see it move, this doesn't go away. One of the other things that we could overlay, because I don't think that this line is really indicative of what's going on. So one thing that you can do to really get a sense of it is click on your relative volume. This picture seems a lot clearer. I'm really curious what everyone else thinks today. But let's get into this. Let's do it here. And I'll try and keep this one short, but I make no promises tonight. So there's a lot to go over. I'm just going to remove all these segment lines and just remove. Let's remove everything there. And let's get rid of this arrow. We don't need it anymore. So this is what I wanted to show you. See this? Today we had one spike of 2x volume, another spike of 2x volume. The end of the day, what happened? Look at the volume that came in end of the day where people are like, I better cover this. And that's what you saw happen. So this is probably some kind of institution at the end of the day in the last 45 minutes going, get me out. I'm not going for the ride again, which means that it's probably not over. That's why you always want to look at different time frame charts. And I would always recommend looking at 15-minute charts at the end of the day. I think that that's a very good representation to see if there was interest or not interest in your stock at the end of the day, whether it's red or green. So that's AMC. I keep it on the list. This AMEH just did a complete about face today and ran. The healthcare moved today. And this is very interesting. A friend of mine was talking about a short report that's out on it, talking about the rebalancing of the Russell and how this is off. And I said, if it's possible, then this could be an issue, but it's not acting that way. Now we'll see down the line how it does act, but this broke a wedge and went above the 8-day today. Okay. And you have to read price. You have to look at what the price is telling you, not what you're reading. So this is telling me that if I get over this, right? If I get over this point right here, okay, I'm going higher, right? If I break that, I'm probably heading to 92.75. I'll even put an alert on this because this will be a very simple trade. There's not going to be anything in here. You can see over here, volume by price in between here, right? There's nothing there. It's like a vacuum. So it'll just suck it right up. That's what will happen. It's almost like a magnet, they call it. So I like this for a short-term trade. I don't know about the rebalancing in the Russell. If it's factual, it's going to be an issue in September. But I don't know where the stock is by September. So I can only trade what's in front of me. I believe the rebalancing September. I have to take a look at that. But, let me just refresh this for people. If you're in this, it could have an issue in September if that's when the rebalancing takes place. So just to be very clear. So I just want to go through this because Amazon in and of itself was one of the major beneficiaries of the pandemic. And it will continue to be if we start getting, global, if they, God forbid, the lockdowns again, or people are afraid to go out, whatever, that fear alone will drive sales, right? Whether there's lockdowns or not, because people just won't go to the store. That's entirely their right to do whatever they want to do, but it benefits Amazon. So I found it very interesting, and I'm going to have to redraw these. So it's going to be easier just for me to click off of them. And I'm going to just make this perfect. Okay. So what you're going to see, I don't care about the wicks that stick out. For people that send me little comments, tell me they're not drawn right, believe me, they're drawn right. So the point that I'm getting at here is, look, see how you gap down and you went right to that line? Okay. If you flip this line, right, you're not going to really have a Morningstar pattern because today was here. But if you flip this line, you could work your way up this red bar right to here. And if that happens, that would be great, right? That'd be great for the stock. It would make you want to pay attention to the stock again, right? And that would get you to what? That 8-day moving average. So that's not unrealistic for that at all. Not even a little bit. That could easily happen. So I would put this on your radar. So as always, if you find this helpful, do me a favor and please click the like button. I'm trying to get in front of as many people as humanly possible to show them what it takes to actually be successful trading. Okay, Asan is one of the names I just want to go over. It's got absolutely nothing to do with what's going on out there right now. But I just want to go through this. See how you broke this wedge? You broke down, you cut under here, which was beautiful, right? Didn't get to this, just a beautiful gap down the other day. And then wham, straight up. And then it just kept on going. And that's really what you want to see. It's exactly what you want to see. This shows massive strength, massive, because in one day I cleared 2 moving averages and I don't have anywhere near the volume that I once had. So when I see a gap like this in volume, it does make me somewhat concerned. So what I will do with that is I always go and take a look at like the relative volume. And then what I'll do is I'll draw down into like the 15 minutes just to see, are there spikes in volume during the day that are greater than what they normally are. And as you could see, there was here at the bottom, right, at that 60 level here. Again, I don't really care that I don't catch this. Sometimes I'll try and do that. I'm more interested in the meat of the trade than just, the appetizers, I guess is the way to look at it. But if this breaks out here, this is really gonna go. So I would be looking at this level 69.30, and I think that if it breaks that, it can go. You can see this go higher. So BNTX, again, as we cover these names, this is just opinion, but if people are getting vaccine shots and they're not working on this new variant, or there's concern that they're not working, there are a couple things. One, people are not going to go and get the shots, right? So that's going to hurt. And we're just talking about this economically. That's going to hurt them. That's not going to be a good thing for this company. And I just really want to go over what transpired here today, because this is very important. So on the technical basis, see this right here, this point, right? And how this is right here. This is right here. So this is a convergence point, right? It's this upper trend. It's this lower trend, okay? And then I'm riding up. And then everybody that has studied a little bit would know that that is a long-legged doji. And that long-legged doji is what? Sitting right at the top of where I'm supposed to break out, okay? So from here over, what I would tell you is this bar is uncertainty. And I have rejected here. Now today in our community, I had somebody reach out to me and say, oh, it's breaking out, it's breaking out. And my response was, is it? And I'll show you exactly what I was looking at, okay? Here I am on the, let's get rid of all the indicators because we don't need them. They're actually irrelevant for this. So here was the point, okay? That's exactly where I went to, right? Traded, broke this, okay? This is when I initiated it for the newsletter for those that get the newsletter. Okay, this break was my initiation. And I can get into why, but it's not really relevant for this conversation. What's relevant is this. I got right to the top of this, and we can say that, oh, it was the news that did it. It doesn't matter why it happened, right? It doesn't matter why you lose money or your stock goes down. It just matters that your stock goes down, right? The reasoning, I don't care. I don't care if it's because the CEO sneezed or what it is. Either way, I lost money. And I don't like to do that. So I need to be very cognizant when you see something like this. This went to our target price today, which was this level. It rejected this level. So now we have a decision to make. Do we hold it or do we sell it? Right now, I have a double top. So there's no reason to raise the target price. And right now I'm looking at getting about five more points. So if do I want to risk, and this becomes the question that everyone has to ask themselves, no one can answer this for you, is that you need to put yourself in a position where you can answer that question. Do I want to hold for 5 more points or do I just want to take it? To me, it's a question everyone has to answer for themselves. No one can answer that for you. But throwing in the indicators again, I mean, you can't use the 21, you can't use the 8 as your stop, right? You'd give back your entire gain. So these are real questions, and then you have to figure out what they are. Somebody could argue that I'm going to use the top of this because that's the opening, and I don't want to go below the opening of today, which would be 241. So that might be an area that somebody may be able to use as far as determining whether or not they want to stay in it. So this volume picking up is everything. I'm just concerned about these names, these VAX names, and what's transpired today. It just makes me somewhat concerned about all these estimates of people actually getting the shots, which is really what's driving this. China signed up to do this. One of the reasons this moved, China signed up to do the booster shots. I'm sure that they signed up with the premise that they were not going to be dealing with any variants as well. I'm sure they were extremely thorough in looking at this. So, you're getting a lot of conflicting data. So until this sorts itself out, there might be uncertainty in these VAX names, and it could create demand for stocks like this, like Dash, where you just are in a position where you're looking at something like this, right, and going, well, maybe we're going back to the at home. Maybe that's what we're going back to for a little bit, not because of lockdowns, but because people are like, I'm not going out. I don't want even the opportunity to catch this thing. And you could see that. So for me, this is a name we traded. We did well once with it, second time out flat. See this little move right here? I need to get over 185 before I even consider it. I've tried so many times and not been able to do it. And that's what I would look for. If I get through 185, see how all your volume is going away over here, right? You're going to go right to this level. That's exactly what you want. So just consider that. I like that trade. This is one I put in the newsletter today. I mean, it's not a secret now. I guess I can leave that up. So, we did well with this. We also did options on it, and they did well. Look, it's really simple. I rallied once, didn't work. Came back down, hit the 21. Everyone's like, do I buy it? I don't know. Like if you're looking from this part over to the right, to the right, you can guess, but you don't know what's going to happen. I don't like to do that. I want to know what's going to happen. Or let me rephrase that. I want to increase the probability as much as possible that I know what's going to happen. Because if I increase the probability of being right and I overlay good money management principles with it, I will be successful. It's that simple. It's simple. It's not easy. So, because you see this and go, oh, I want to buy it here. And now somebody today will go, well, I'm not paying $2.99. It was just at $2.70. It's a completely different trade now. Okay, now I'm breaking out at all-time highs, right? And this is that two pattern that we talk about all the time, right? Let's just drop this down. Drop this down for a moment. And you see this 290, right? And the first time we try to get through the 290, right? I always say this, first mouse gets what? The trap. Second mouse gets the cheese. Okay, so this happens all the time. You set your watch to it. So, and it doesn't mean that you don't buy this bar. You do buy this bar because when the time that it doesn't happen, or the time that you don't do it is the time that it runs. So you just have to get in it and just keep raising your stop up and protecting your capital. But now that we're through this gets very interesting. And again, should benefit from the at home. FLGT benefits from obviously what's going on out there right now with the vaccine and the big vaccine move. But let's get rid of all these indicators for a moment and just look at pricing and really clean this up. This picture looks so much clearer. I really hope it looks clearer to everybody else. But let's get back to it. See this wedge that I'm in? See how I rejected this 86.32? Okay, that's what you have to watch. So right there, I have a clear rejection. It couldn't be any clearer. Rejected the 21, and I don't really even care about those lines, to be honest with you. I can actually get rid of all those moving averages, and I'll tell you why. See how they're just flatlining? I've been basing so long that moving averages, when a stock is not trending, are frankly irrelevant, in my opinion, in the way that I trade. What's not irrelevant is point of control and VWAP. So, and I'll just walk you through this very quickly. It'll just be a quick lesson. So see this VWAP? See how we can't stay above that white line? We got above it once, right? Every single time we've closed below it except here and this, okay? Look at what we're doing with point of control. Resistance, 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 support, support, right? Resistance, support, resistance, they flip, right? And then what did this become? Support again. So what do I think happens here? I think you could trade down to this 74, 75 level again, and then go from there. And you're still in the wedge, but I would not be a buyer here. If I was in this, I'd be gone. I wouldn't even be waiting around to see what's going to happen. Usually there's a telltale sign of whether or not you're going to go through more pain just by the opening being in the low or the high, right? And as long as you close more than 2/3 of the bar down, chances of another ugly day, they're pretty much there. So, and we'll get into that. I don't want to do the IWM just yet. We're going to do that at the end. I want to do this lake. This really should have benefit from what's going on out there. And I've got a bearish engulfing on this one. So I'm going to throw in the indicators on this so that you can just see this. And I really don't even need the 8. You get it. I mean, I can throw it in, I guess. So See how you have that bearish engulfing where this bar, this red bar encapsulates that bar after popping up over the 50? That's just clear institutional selling. And look at these bars and how much bigger they're getting because they're just selling down here. So this is not something I would be rushing into. I actually, if I was looking to play one of these like lower end kind of names, you know, the one that I keep looking at if it's going to pop is this IHPI. I'd be more interested in that if I was looking at playing some of the lower hanging fruit. So, and we'll get into Noro here in a moment. But, you know, in regards to Moderna, and I just want to let's get rid of all this for a moment and let's just zoom in on this and let's get into mRNA. And these are fib levels that I have here. And I'm going to get rid of all these horizontal lines. Okay. And we're just going to zoom in on this for a moment. And I just want to go through this. So the reason that I would be concerned, right, is this bar. Okay. We open, okay, right at the high. We run up like we're going gangbusters, right? This was one we traded and did exceptionally well with. And here's your close. This is what you came down to. Okay. What gets me is that bar is just screaming uncertainty, and I'm hugely overextended. Now, at the end of the day, it became clear to me that if you were trading that during the day, you should probably just be out of it because the uncertainty in these names probably means more follow through tomorrow. But I just want to point something out. If this comes back down, this may present a buying opportunity for this. Okay, these names are not going to go away. So if these sell down, they're probably buys. And the one I would focus on the most is the one that's going to be added to the S&P, which is mRNA. So that's the one that I would be focused on. But watch it and see how it acts. And really watch how it acts on this fib level. You know, these fib levels are dead. I mean, they're dead on. Right? If you look at it, we drew from the bottom, obviously, to when it broke out here. And, you know, we didn't get exactly to this level, but we came pretty darn close to it. And I think if the news frankly, I think if that news didn't start trickling out, that we would have. But you can see how it respects these levels. Look at how it is at the 61.8% retracement. Right? I mean, it totally is respecting these. So I would just keep using these fib levels as a guide. And then you could obviously throw in the indicators. But, I mean, are you really going to hang out and wait for 266? Probably not. Most people are not going to wait for that or stay in it if they just bought it for a trade. If you were in at 20, 30 bucks, sure. I mean, you don't really care. But that's what you have to look at, and that's what you're looking for here with mRNA. And if you take out this lower low, you're just going to have to get out of the way. You know, you really are. That would just be pretty disastrous if you break that low. You're exposing yourself up to coming down to that 250 level. And at that point, it might be a buy. So Noro, what we're going to do with this, NURO, is we're going to throw this into a 15-minute, okay? And we're just going to talk about it. Now, something like this, the easiest way to trade this, okay, when you're trading it and you're trading it for the day, is just look, and you know what, maybe we should just go to a 5-minute because it'll give us more data. And I'm going to leave all this in. So very quickly, here's your VWAP, and let's get rid of all the other ones because I really don't use them for this. Some people do, and that's fine. But here's your VWAP, okay? And just look at what happens here. This is pretty textbook stuff. Right? We're riding VWAP, and you don't know what VWAP's going to do in the first 45 minutes. It's really hard to use it as a guide. But after that 45 minutes and right around where this happens, like it was basically an hour later, right? What's it do? It breaks out of that level. Like I move this up a little bit to there. Breaks out of that level and just rides this all the way up. Okay? Never touches VWAP again. Never touches it again. And all you could do here is just look for patterns. Here's a wedge. You buy the wedge. It breaks out. Forms a flag, breaks out, forms another base, breaks out, right? You're just using these little levels right under it as your stop. Runs up, you know, you're using this as your stop. You got stopped out there, reverses. You can see where I'm going with this. And this type of stock continues to run. Now, if there is something here and I'm just going to preface this, if there is something here that could possibly help with the situation that's being addressed right now, this is going to go a lot higher. Okay, I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't know the validity of it. I'm not getting into it. I'm just saying that this level of uncertainty that's been created again by people, nobody wants to deal with this again. Nobody wants to go through 2020 again. They just don't. Okay, and I'm not suggesting that anybody does, but anything that's going to help with this is going to get a lot of attention, a lot. No matter how trivial, if it can help, it's going to get a lot of attention. So if that's the driving force behind this, this can go higher. And all I would do, frankly, if I was going to play this, I'd be using these levels. And I'll just do it on a 15-minute. So I would be using the high of today as a level, and then I'd use the high of whatever post and pre is, meaning tomorrow, whatever happens tomorrow. So this could change tomorrow, right? But for now, these are your levels. And it's interesting enough, right? That was our high, and look how that's our low of the day. And then we bounced off of it and kept going. So just keep that in mind. There's a reason why they're there. So NVAX, we're going to touch base on. So this was one I bought today, did great. And then, I raised the stop, and we did get stopped out. But, when you're up a little bit of money, like up 10 points at one point on this, you really don't usually round trip yourself all the way back to your stop loss, right? So if you have that opportunity, you buy it, you trade it, and then you move the stop up. And then if it comes back down to your cost after you're up like 5%, you just get stopped out of it. So some people were able to benefit from that. Other people were not, and they just got stopped out and lost $8.50 or 4%. So it happens. There's nothing you can do about it. What I don't like about this is that not only did I break out and fail, I closed below this trend line again. So this is not something that you want to be chasing right now. You're going to have to let this settle in and figure out what it's going to do. The uncertainty factor that came out today, it's great that it didn't break the 21, but the uncertainty factor that came out today is not what we're looking for at all. And, I was looking for this to move to be the third leg of the triumvirate, and that's not what I got. I got a whole pile of rumors where maybe they don't have enough data to show efficacy with the Delta variant. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to get into it. I'm lucky enough that I can just read price. So when you see something like this, you just have to get out of the way. And it is what it is, and you move on. Again, based upon this one closing where it is, the one that I would focus on the most out of these VAX names when they come in is the one that people have to buy. You're going to have to buy this. You're going to have to buy mRNA because it's going in the S&P. So you have buyers out there that have to be in this, right? Now, if BNTX comes out and shows that they're stronger with this Delta variant or something along those lines, that's going to become the stock. And I just want to point something out about that because I look at relative strength. So I would say that BNTX closed up, 57, 58. Well, what did we close up today? Hold on, I'll tell you exactly what we did. We closed up 1.5%. Okay. After hours, I think it's down like a dollar, which will throw it off, but you're up 1.5% today. If you look at mRNA, which did have a much larger run, that's down 3%. If you look at NVAX, that's down 3%. So to me, if you want to figure out which one has the highest relative strength and you want to play that game, it's BNTX. But mRNA is going to have, to me, more buyers unless there's some news that comes out about the Delta variant that shows that this has more promise. I hope that's clear. OCGN is another name, the smaller name that keeps getting thrown around out there. And I really want to just point this out. I'm not getting into the specifics of what they do, the validity, any of that. We're just looking at charts. So on OCGN, you see how you're riding this line the whole way down? You're forming a little flag there, aren't we? You're trying your hardest. See how these lines just flatline, right? They're irrelevant. So right here and right here. And then you get to this 930. That'd be your first stop, 930. So let's see if that happens or not, and we can kind of go from there. But that would be your first look. And if I broke this breakdown bar, or breakup bar, which would be 637, I'd be out. PFE, I just want to go through this. I've been watching this forever, and you broke out today. So I don't know, again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know if PFE, which is partners with BNTX, if they have something that is going to benefit from this, or it just decided to move today. But I would note this, and I think this is worth noting because it doesn't happen very often. And you'll see that it doesn't happen very often. Okay. Your average trading volume was what today? 2.3. This has not happened. You have not had a reading like this, right? Since back here when they came out in November, and everybody was aware that they were going to come out with the vaccine. So that leaves you there. Now, PTON, I actually was going to disclose this. I have a trade on, a short-term trade on. I want to see how it opens tomorrow. I thought it was worth the risk, and I'll point out why. I really liked how this bar got us above the 8, and then we just gapped and went. And the at-home names, if the at-home names come back, this is going to go. Now, based upon that, this is really what you're looking for, right? That's not really it. Hold on. That's what I'm really looking for. I really want to get above that 128. So I could see that tomorrow morning. I could not see that tomorrow morning. It's a short-term trade. I won't be in it very long. Frankly, if I get below that open, I'm 100% gone. But I think that it could hang in there. And I like how you're above the 200 again. I like how you broke it and then it came to the 50 and it found support. If you're finding support, you see how these lines flip, right? And let me just show you this so that you can see what I'm talking about a little bit, because this is a really important lesson. So that when you're looking for your own ideas, if you say it, you can just recognize it, right? So let's even get rid of volume by price for a moment. Let's just look at this. So here you are, you break this down here, right? See how it rides it and keeps trying and trying, and then when it finally gets over and it's confirmed that it's over, that's when it goes. See how it tries to test it here, but then when it finally opens and then goes below, that's the end of it. See how resistance is here, right? Then it's resistance, and then what? It flips to support, rallies, flips to support. So right now the 50-day is support, period. Until proven otherwise, this is a support level, and it's curling up. So that means that I could be setting up for a trade here back to these levels. Now there's something else going on here that we can talk about, okay, that didn't close today, that could make this a much longer term trade. That just is not there yet. But this could be a longer term trade out there that is developing. And if you start breaking this and you're overlaying, your 200-day, your 21-day, and you're starting to do this, that gets very interesting, and your volume starts picking up again. This gets very interesting for a possible test of heading back to this level. And again, with this variant, you have to think globally. Right? People might not want to go to the gym anymore. They might say, that's enough. I finally am going to get the bike. And they get it. So I don't know. I'm just talking out loud about what I think can happen. And I think it's very clear that institutions are putting their money there because institutions buy on the 50-day. So we'll cover the Qs in a moment. Space, I just want to get into this. So it does seem like we're trying to find a bottom, and I just want to point out something today with this one. And I know it doesn't have anything to do with the vax names, but this one is getting actionable. And I just want to point something out. If you are really interested in this name, right, you can actually start accumulating and building a position and just use that as your stop, right? 28.63. Like, you have not had an up a day where you didn't hit a lower low since all this selling began. That was today. And look what we did. See how we opened below the 200-day and closed right at what? One of these fib levels? It's crazy how that works, right? So see how we're sitting on that fib level again and the 50-day? What's going to happen when we flip, if we flip the fib level and we flip the 50-day? They both become support. It's not a bad place to start building a position if you're a position builder. Now, get rid of all that, and I have a bear flag, right? Here's your flagpole and here's your flag. So it's not a ringing endorsement and it can go against you. That's what I'm saying. If I take out this low, I would be out of the way. But you could start building here and seeing if it could start ascending. It's not going to go right back up, but this is a nice place to start building a position if you're long-term with it. So everyone got very excited about Square today because Jack Dorsey's having a meeting. Okay. I think that's great. I don't know why everyone's so excited about it, but okay. They're going to come out of the meeting. They're going to make a statement. The statement will be something. Maybe the stock goes up on it. Maybe the stock sells down on it. I didn't get the hype today. I get it. If you got it right off the rip, off this Morningstar break, you got a position that, you had the opportunity to make about $6, $7 in. Great. And I think it's great, but I don't see anything that's telling me I have to really jump back in this. I have a huge resistance point right here. Enormous at 254. So until I'm through that, you can see it hitting here, right? Bonk, 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 right? So until I am through that, why am I even interested in this? This is where the meat of the trade is, up here. See how I can't stay above this line that we drew? Right? Every time it gets above this line, what happens? It comes back down. That's where we have to get through, up and above. And really, if you don't want to wait for that high and you're trying to figure it out, you just put it here. And that gives you an understanding roughly of where it is and where you have to get through. And if you get through that, it probably means you're going to take this out, right? So that's one way to get in this if you were interested, if you wanted to wait for it to actually click. And that gets you what? Back to 283, up to that level. ZM is the last stock, and then I'm going to do the indexes. So I just want to go through this. We traded this. I made 20 points on it and then just got out of it. So let's get rid of all these indicators. Let's just look at these lines for a moment. And let's get rid, you know what? Let's just start completely over. Because sometimes my lines for people, if they're not used to them. So I don't really need anything else on this but to draw trend lines. So this was the one that we did. And we watched it break, and then we waited for it to go. And then when it broke out here, we got involved. I like this trade. I find it very interesting that it's holding in there. And I just want to show a couple things so that you can kind of see this. Okay, this is the gap here. Okay, so this is the low of that gap, right? See where that sits? Right on this crux right here, right where it broke out. Okay, look at this. That's the top of the gap. See how this gap has now become support? Right? We touch it, we bounce. We touch it, we bounce. That means whoever was selling or wanted to sell in here, they're gone, right? See how they were here before? And they were here every time it hit that level? They're gone. This is support now. So 346.38 is a support level, okay? And based upon that, you can buy this and know that if I break this level, then I need to be out of the position. Now, that doesn't tell me I'm going up, but that tells me where my bottom might be. And then if I break that, I don't want to be in it. Now, let's get rid of the 21 and the 200 for a moment. Okay, so let's zoom in on this and really get into this. Okay, so now I have above average volume, even though it's red. And it's not surprising that it's red, and I'll explain why in a moment. I'm sitting right on this support line. Right? And I'm holding the 50-day. It's pretty clear that this has flipped to support. And so you have two levels of support right here, right? Doesn't mean it's going up. What you're going to need to see if it's going up is this. But you have some other players in here, and we're going to talk about that really quickly. So you see that wedge, so you have to get through that wedge line. But here, let's just talk about this for a minute so people can understand arbitrage. Right? I'm going to just do it really quickly, so you don't fall asleep. They bought a company. Okay. It's very simple. They short, okay. They short ZM and they buy the company that they are buying in an all stock deal. So you have arbitrage guys out there that are doing nothing but shorting this and buying the other stock, and they're doing it at like 4-to-1 or 6-to-1 or whatever crazy leverage they can get. And they just want the spread. So let's say that spread right now is 5%. I don't have the deal numbers in front of me. Okay, and they can lever it 4-to-1. They can make 20% annualized. They're done. They're booking the profit as long as the deal goes through. And then they just monitor the deal and make sure it goes through and then control their risk through options. That's what's going on here. So the fact that this is red, okay, I don't really care because I understand why it's red. What I find very interesting about this trade and why I'm paying attention to it is I think that this could break this level maybe tomorrow or the next day. And if it does, I would pay attention to this one. What I really like about this, and if you're more interested in me going through, comment on the arbitrage thing, and I can actually put examples together in like a tutorial and post it if you want to learn how they do that. But you see these wicks? Wicks are what? Price rejection. I'm going to link that video to the end of this. But those price rejections, what are they telling you? Right? They're telling you that I don't have sellers here. Right? There's no sellers. So I'm getting these hammer. It's hammer time, right? That's what you want to see. So I would definitely have this on my radar and be watching this. Very quickly, we're going to just do the indexes and run through. Okay. I added some positions today, but that doesn't mean that I think that this is over. And I'm going to throw these in. I think that this is probably the worst thing that could have happened. I didn't want to bounce. I wanted to sell down, flush it out, move on with my life. The fact that we've gapped down and now we've rallied is really setting us up for a test of this line that we need to get back over. And then if we can't, we're probably coming back down and basing again. So tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day, to say the least, and make sure that you have your stops in place. Breaking over this, how we broke over today, is exactly what we want, but it shouldn't happen that fast. And because it did, it leads me to believe I just have retail chasing names right now. Okay, I really believe that. I don't think I had a lot of institutional people saying I have to get in right here. Just my personal opinion. You know, think about this. It's all about the economy, right? If the economy is going to be weak, if the vaccines don't work and the at-home stocks are going up, meaning vaccine stocks don't work for, you know, what we've been talking about. They work, but not for, apparently people are still catching it. It's an issue, right? They'll figure it out, but for now it's an issue. So what we need to do is figure out why would we go back up with this going on? It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, and if you think about that, if you think about that logically, it would just mean that maybe we're just seeing short covering. And that's really what, like, the moves that you saw today in some of these stocks, they don't move like that. And, you know, Apple doesn't move like that. And that to me is a panic. I got to get in. I got to get in the trade, and they run them up. And just be really careful with that. So I'm not in a big hurry to buy this here. Now let's look at the SPY. Okay. I reverse. Here's my upper trend line. I reverse. I hit here. I bounce off the 50, which I always do. Next bar usually gets trapped in here just like this one, and then I go higher. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, but I have a trend line right up here that I've just had trouble with. So what do I have? 1% more left? And, you know, the average daily volume, if you look at the spike, and this is why I like using a relative volume. See this level, right? It's definitely different than just looking at this. So, but what's going to happen here? What are we looking for? We could obviously push and get through tomorrow. And a follow-through day, if you have a follow-through day by the end of the day, you definitely want to be looking at that. But the way that this market is shaking everything off is like the equivalent of saying, oh, well, the vaccine stocks are dropping because the efficacy doesn't work. Small caps are going up, and technology is going up because the economy is going to do better because of that. And that's why the at-home stocks are moving up. So there's a huge disconnect in the market right now. So I would be very, very careful. I'm not saying you can't make money off of it, but I'd be very careful. This index does not move like this, right? And I just want to point that out. Okay, we do not go up 3.5%, 4% on the Russell in a day. It's very, very rare. You could argue that maybe it happened here, but here was a range. It was range bound from the open to the close. So I guarantee you that wasn't one. But to say that we're just going to go up 3.5%, maybe that happened here, right? And I don't even believe it did by looking at that bar. So when was the last time that this happened? Okay, it hasn't. So that would lead me to believe that this is more short covering than anything else when it moves that fast. On a positive note, I am above support, right? And I am above the major trend line, which I needed to do within 3 days, and I've done it. So I still have to read what's going on in the market. We ran right into the support level. I'm just saying that I would be very cautious here about thinking of increasing your longs without having a backdrop right now. I would make sure I would not be going crazy here. This was a very big move out of nowhere, and yes, if you look at if someone's going to go look at an index and go, I was looking at the McKellen oscillator, and it told me this was going to happen. Okay, that's great. It told you after the fact. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's happening now. And so what you have to do is look at this and go, what are we supposed to do with this? What you're supposed to do is see this get over that higher high in that breakdown bar. And then you're probably going to push to here. We start doing that again, you could start seeing something, right? You are developing. And I'd much rather go up than down, but I would just be really cautious chasing here. See this wedge line? You break this wedge line up, you will see buyers. There's no question about it. You will. And you'll be looking through that, right? 219.88. So that's it in a nutshell. As always, feel free to reach out via email or Twitter, whatever works for you. Thank you and have a great evening.